Captain Lee Daeho stood on the bridge of the orbital defense station Aegis 7, watching the morning sun rise over New Busan Colony. The planet below looked peaceful. Green fields stretched across the continents, broken by silver rivers and small cities. 2.5 million people called this world home. They grew food here that fed dozens of other human worlds. Lee Daeho had been protecting this place for 3 years. Nothing dangerous ever happened out here on the rim of human space. The most exciting thing was usually a broken cargo ship or a lost tourist vessel. He liked it that way. His crew was small but good. They ran a tight ship and kept the space lanes safe. That morning started like any other. Communications Officer Han Mi-ra was checking the overnight reports. Engineer Pak Jun-ho was running system checks. Dr. Park So-young down on the planet was sending up her daily science updates. Everything was normal. Then the sensor started screaming. "Captain!" Han Mi-ra called out, her voice sharp with surprise. "I'm getting massive readings at the system edge. Multiple contacts, sir. Big ones." Lee Daeho moved to the sensor station. The screen showed dots approaching from deep space. Not just a few dots, dozens of them. Each one was huge, bigger than anything humans had ever built. "How big?" Lee Daeho asked. "The largest is 20 kilometers long, sir. The others are smaller but still massive. I've never seen anything like these ships." Lee Daeho felt cold fear creep up his spine. These were not human ships. In over 200 years of space travel, humans had never met another intelligent species. They had found empty worlds, dead ruins, but never living aliens. "Send a message to the planet," he ordered. "Alert status yellow. Unknown contacts approaching." On New Busan, Minister Kim Woo-jin received the alert in his office in the capital city. He was an old soldier before he became a colonial administrator. He knew what unknown contacts might mean. He immediately called an emergency meeting. "We need to prepare for the worst," he told his staff. "If these are hostile aliens, we have very little to defend ourselves with." New Busan had only basic defenses. Some missile platforms around the major cities. A small patrol fleet of 6 ships. The orbital station had better weapons, but it was still just one station against dozens of alien ships. Dr. Park So-young was in her laboratory when the alert came through. She was a xenobiologist, someone who studied alien life. But she had only studied dead alien artifacts, never living aliens. Her hands shook as she saved her work and prepared to evacuate. Back on the orbital station, the alien fleet grew larger on the sensors. Lee Daeho could see them now with the optical telescopes. The ships were like nothing he had ever imagined. They looked like crystal growths, all sharp edges and glowing lights. They moved in perfect formation, like a school of deadly fish. "Try to contact them," Lee Daeho ordered. Han Mi-ra opened all communication channels. She sent greetings in every human language, then in mathematical concepts that any intelligent species should understand. She broadcast pictures showing human friendship and peace. The alien ships did not respond. They just kept coming. Minister Kim Woo-jin watched from the planet's surface as the alien fleet entered orbit. The ships were so large they blocked out parts of the sky. People in the street stopped and pointed. Some took pictures. Others ran inside their homes. "Sir," Han Mi-ra said on the orbital station, "I'm getting energy readings from their ships. Massive power buildup." Lee Daeho knew what that meant. "All hands, battle stations, raise shields, charge weapons." The Aegis 7 was not built for a war. It had some defensive weapons and light armor, but against ships this size, it would be like a mouse fighting a tiger. "Send one more message," Lee Daeho ordered. "Tell them we are peaceful. We don't want to fight." Han Mi-ra sent the message. For a moment there was silence. Then the alien ships responded. They responded with weapons fire. Beams of pure energy lanced out from the crystal ships. But these were not normal energy weapons. The beams seemed to bend space itself. Where they hit the defense station shields, reality twisted and warped. "Shields down to 60%, Pak Jun-ho shouted. "These weapons are doing things our shields weren't designed to stop." Lee Daeho gripped his command chair. "Return fire, all weapons." The station's missiles and energy beams struck the alien ships. The explosions were bright against the crystal hulls, but when the light faded, the ships were undamaged. They had some kind of shields that made human weapons useless. Down on the planet, Minister Kim Woo-jin watched the battle in the sky. The orbital station was fighting bravely, but it was clearly losing. He turned to his communication officer. "Get me a connection to Earth, emergency channels. We need help." But before the officer could respond, the alien ships began landing on the planet. Dr. Park So-young was evacuating her laboratory when she saw the first alien landing craft descend from the sky. It was smaller than the big ships, but still massive. It landed in the fields outside the city with a sound like thunder. The craft opened like a flower, and creatures came out. Dr. Park So-young had studied alien fossils and remains. She thought she was prepared to see living aliens. She was wrong. The creatures were like giant insects, but wrong somehow. They had too many legs, too many eyes. They wore armor that seemed to be grown rather than built. In their claws, they carried weapons that hummed with deadly energy. But the worst part was not how they looked. The worst part was how they moved. They moved with purpose. They had not come to explore or trade or communicate. They had come to kill. The aliens spread out from their landing craft in perfect military formation. They began moving toward the city. Anything that got in their way, they destroyed. Trees, buildings, vehicles. Everything was torn apart by their weapons. Human security forces tried to fight back. Police officers and the small colonial defense force opened fire with their weapons. The bullets and energy blasts bounced off the alien armor like raindrops. The aliens killed the defenders without even slowing down. In orbit, the Aegis 7 was dying. Half the station was gone, torn apart by weapons that violated the laws of physics. Lee Dae-ho and his surviving crew kept fighting, but they knew it was hopeless. "Sir," Han Mi-ra said, blood running down her face from a head wound. "I can still reach the quantum communication array. I can send a message to Earth." Lee Dae-ho nodded. "Do it. Tell them what happened here. Tell them about the aliens. Warn them." Han Mi-ra's fingers flew over her controls. The quantum ansible connected instantly to Earth, faster than light travel. She began transmitting everything they had learned about the alien ships and weapons on the planet. Minister Kim Woo-jin was in his emergency bunker, trying to coordinate the defense. But there was no real defense. The aliens were not just attacking military targets, they were attacking everything. Schools, hospitals, homes. Nothing was spared. "Sir," his aide said, "we're getting reports from all over the planet. The aliens are landing everywhere. They're killing everyone they find." Kim Woo-jin felt sick. This was not conquest. This was extermination. He managed to reach the communication center one last time. The quantum ansible was still working. Barely. He sent his own message to Earth. His final report as colonial administrator. "This is Minister Kim Woo-jin of New Busan Colony. The aliens are not here to conquer. They are here to exterminate. All of us. They have technology far beyond ours. Weapons that break the laws of physics. They cannot be reasoned with. They cannot be stopped. Warn the other colonies. Warn Earth. Do not let what happened here happen to other worlds." The transmission cut off as the communication center was destroyed by alien weapons. Dr. Park So-young hid in the ruins of her laboratory, watching through a crack in the wall as the aliens moved through the city. They worked methodically, going building by building. Any humans they found were killed instantly. They showed no mercy, no hesitation. They were like machines programmed for murder. She saw a group of children running from a school. The aliens cut them down without pause. She saw an old man trying to surrender, hands raised. The aliens killed him too. They made no distinction between soldiers and civilians, between young and old. All humans were the same to them, targets to be eliminated. In orbit, the Aegis 7 finally died. The last of its weapons fell silent. Captain Lee Dae-ho and his crew had fought to the end, but it was not enough. The orbital station broke apart, pieces of it falling toward the planet like metal rain. The alien fleet moved into position around New Busan. Their weapons charged again, but this time they were aimed at the planet itself. What happened next would haunt the nightmares of humanity for generations to come. The aliens did not just occupy the planet. They sterilized it. Their weapons reached down from orbit and turned entire cities into glass craters. The green fields became burning wastelands. The rivers boiled away. In 6 hours, 2.5 million people were dead. New Busan Colony, once a thriving world, was now a silent tomb. The alien fleet commander, Overlord Thexkar, logged the operation in his report. To him, it was routine. Another primitive species encountered and eliminated. Another world cleansed for the glory of the Vorthak Empire. He had no idea that the humans had managed to send warnings to their home worlds. He had no idea that he had just awakened something that would reshape the galaxy itself. The war had begun and humanity would never be the same again. The quantum message from New Busan reached Earth at exactly 14:23 Universal Time. Admiral Choi Hyun-woo was in a budget meeting when his aide burst through the door. The man's face was white as paper. "Sir, you need to see this immediately. Priority. Alpha message from New Busan." Admiral Choi Hyun-woo had been running the Terran Defense Force for 8 years. He had seen many crisis messages, but never one marked Priority Alpha. That level was reserved for threats to human existence itself. He watched the recordings from Captain Lee Dae-ho and Minister Kim Woo-jin. He saw the alien ships with their impossible weapons. He heard the final desperate messages before the transmission cut to static. When it ended, he sat in silence for a long moment. "Sir?" his aide asked quietly. "Get me President Kang Soo-bin," Admiral Choi Hyun-woo said. "Emergency, channels, and activate the crisis committee. All department heads, all military commanders. We have 30 minutes to get them here." President Kang Soo-bin was giving a speech about trade agreements when her security chief whispered in her ear. She saw the look on his face and knew something terrible had happened. She ended her speech early and rushed to the emergency command center deep beneath the presidential palace. The crisis committee gathered in the secure room. These were the most powerful people in human space: military commanders, intelligence, directors, scientific advisors, and political leaders. They came expecting another border dispute or terrorist attack. They were not prepared for the truth. Admiral Choi Hyun-woo played the recordings from New Busan. The room fell silent as they watched the alien ships destroy the orbital station. They heard Minister Kim Woo-jin's final message warning of extermination. When it ended, nobody spoke for several minutes. "How many people?" President Kang Soo-bin finally asked. 2.5 million, Madam President. All dead. The planet is lifeless now. Dr. Yoon Ji-hye, the Director of Advanced Weapons Research, raised her hand. She was a small woman with gray hair, but her mind was one of the sharpest in human space. "The weapons they used," she said, "they bend space-time itself. Our current technology cannot create shields that would stop such attacks. We cannot fight them with conventional weapons." General Bae Tae-young, head of Special Operations, leaned forward. "What are you saying, Doctor?" "I am saying that everything we know about warfare is obsolete. These aliens have technology that makes our best weapons look like stone knives. If they attack Earth or the core worlds, we cannot stop them." President Kang Soo-bin felt the weight of leadership crushing down on her. She was responsible for the lives of 50 billion humans spread across hundreds of worlds. And now she learned that an alien empire existed that could kill them all. "Options," she said simply. "We could try to negotiate," suggested the foreign minister. "Perhaps they can be reasoned with." "They killed children," Admiral Choi Hyun-woo said quietly. "They turned a peaceful colony into glass. These are not creatures who negotiate." "We could evacuate the outer colonies," suggested the colonial administrator. "Pull everyone back to the core worlds and build better defenses." "And then what?" General Bae Tae-young asked. "Wait for them to come for us when they are ready? That is not a strategy. That is just delaying our deaths." Dr. Yoon Ji-hye cleared her throat. "There is another option. Project Prometheus." The room went quiet. Project Prometheus was humanity's most classified research program. Even most of the crisis committee did not know what it involved. "Explain," President Kang Soo-bin ordered. Dr. Yoon Ji-hye activated a holographic display. For the past 20 years, we have been researching theoretical weapons, things that were too dangerous to build, too terrible to consider. We kept the research locked away because we never thought we would need such things. The display showed equations and diagrams that hurt to look at, weapons that attacked reality itself rather than just matter and energy. These aliens think they have superior technology, Dr. Yoon Ji-hai continued. But technology has rules. Physics has laws. What if we break those rules? What if we fight them with weapons that should not exist? Are you talking about violating the weapons convention? The foreign minister asked, horrified. I am talking about survival, Dr. Yoon Ji-hee replied. The convention assumes we are fighting other humans who follow the same rules we do. These aliens have already shown they follow no such rules. President Kang Soo-bin studied the display. The weapons described there were terrifying. Some could destroy entire star systems. Others could reach backwards through time to kill targets before they were born. All of them violated treaties that humanity had signed to prevent another devastating war. How long would it take to build these weapons? She asked. The basic versions? 6 months with unlimited resources and no safety restrictions. And the advanced versions? 2 years, maybe 3. General Bae Tae-young shook his head. We may not have 3 years. If these aliens are expanding, they could hit other colonies soon. We need something faster. Dr. Yoon Ji-hai nodded. Then we start with the basics and work up. But understand, once we cross this line, we cannot go back. These weapons will change us. They will change what it means to be human. President Kang Soo-bin looked around the room. She saw fear in every face, but also determination. New Busan had shown them what would happen if they did nothing. Vote, she said. All in favor of authorizing Project Prometheus? Every hand rose. Then God help us all, President Kang Soo-bin whispered. The next 24 hours changed human civilization forever. President Kang Soo-bin addressed the Federation Council in an emergency session. Her speech was broadcast to every human world. Citizens of humanity, she began. Yesterday we learned that we are not alone in the universe. We learned this in the worst possible way. An alien empire destroyed New Busan colony and murdered every person there. 2.5 million innocent people dead because these aliens see us as something to be exterminated. The silence in the council chamber was total. They chose to show us what they are. Now we will show them what we become when cornered. I am authorizing all necessary measures to defend humanity. We will build weapons that these aliens cannot imagine. We will fight them with the fury of a species that refuses to die quietly. The speech galvanized humanity. Within hours, volunteers were signing up for military service faster than the recruiters could process them. Research facilities that had been working on peaceful projects switched to weapons development. Mining operations increased production to provide raw materials for the war effort. But the most important changes were happening in the secret laboratories of Project Prometheus. Dr. Yoon Ji-hee assembled her team at the Prometheus facility on Luna. She had the best scientists from every human world, all sworn to absolute secrecy. They worked around the clock, pushing the boundaries of physics itself. We are not trying to build better missiles or stronger armor, she told them. We are trying to build weapons that attack the fundamental forces that hold reality together. This is not engineering. This is applied philosophy. The first breakthrough came from Dr. Lee Yoon-seo, a quantum physicist who had been working on dimensional theory. She discovered how to create localized areas where the laws of physics changed. In her test chamber, she made gravity flow upward and time run backwards. We can weaponize this, she told Dr. Yoon Ji-hai. Create zones where enemy weapons cannot function because the physics are wrong. Meanwhile, Admiral Choi Hyun-woo was rebuilding the entire Terran Defense Force. He knew that conventional tactics would not work against the aliens. He needed new strategies, new ships, new ways of fighting. He called in Captain Song Min-ho, one of humanity's best tactical minds. Captain Song had studied every battle in human history, looking for patterns and principles that could be applied to space warfare. The aliens think like conquerors, Captain Song told the Admiral. They have superior technology, so they rely on it. They probably have not faced serious resistance in centuries. That makes them predictable. What do you suggest? We make them face the unpredictable. We fight them in ways they cannot prepare for because no one has ever fought that way before. General Bai Tae-young had his own ideas about fighting the aliens. He selected his best special operations soldiers and began training them for missions behind enemy lines. Not to sabotage or steal information, but to study the aliens themselves. We need to know how they think, he told his team leaders. What they fear, what they value, what weaknesses they have. You cannot defeat an enemy you do not understand. The first volunteers for the most dangerous missions were led by Lieutenant Colonel Oh Yoo-jin. She had spent her career in places where conventional soldiers could not go. Now she would go where no human had ever been, into alien territory. This is not about winning battles, she told her team. This is about learning enough to win the war. As the months passed, reports came in from other human colonies. The aliens had attacked 3 more worlds. Each time, the pattern was the same. Overwhelming force, total extermination, no attempt to communicate or negotiate. But each attack also provided more data. Human spy satellites hidden in the outer systems recorded the alien weapons in action. Scientists analyzed the energy patterns and began to understand how the alien technology worked. The aliens were not violating physics, Dr. Yoon Ji-hee realized. They were just using physics in ways humans had never imagined. Dr. Yoon Ji-hee stood in Laboratory 7, watching her team prepare the most dangerous weapon humanity had ever conceived. The device looked simple enough, a metal cylinder about the size of a baseball bat. But inside that cylinder was technology that could rewrite the laws of physics in a small area of space. Final systems check, she called out. Her assistant, Dr. Kim Sang-wook, read from his tablet. Quantum field generators at full power, temporal stabilizers online, reality anchors, functioning normally. We are ready for the first live test of the reality cascade weapon. 6 months had passed since New Busan. In that time, humanity had developed weapons that would have been considered impossible just a year ago. The reality cascade was the most advanced of these new weapons. It did not just destroy targets. It made them impossible to exist in the first place. Target acquired, announced the weapons officer. 1 kilometer asteroid, composition standard iron nickel. Dr. Yoon Ji-hee nodded. Fire. The weapon activated with a sound like reality tearing. A bubble of altered physics expanded around the target asteroid. Inside the bubble, the strong nuclear force that held atoms together simply stopped working. The asteroid did not explode. It did not melt. Its atoms just forgot how to stay atoms. In 3 seconds, a billion-ton asteroid became a cloud of loose protons and electrons that drifted apart like smoke. Successful test, Dr. Kim Sang-wook reported, but his voice was shaking. Target completely atomized. No residual radiation, no energy signature that enemy sensors could detect. Dr. Yoon Ji-hee watched the particle cloud disperse. She felt sick to her stomach. They had just demonstrated a weapon that could erase entire planets from existence, and this was just one of dozens of impossible weapons her teams had created in Nambe Mirror. Another laboratory, Dr. Lee Eun-seo, was working on something even more terrible. She called it the probability warhead. Instead of destroying things that existed, it prevented things from ever having existed in the first place. The theory is simple, she explained to visiting military officers. Every event has a probability of occurring. What if we could change those probabilities after the fact? Make something that happened become something that never happened. General, Bai Tae-young frowned. You mean time travel? Not exactly. Time travel changes the past. This changes the probability that the past occurred the way it did. The target does not get destroyed. The target gets edited out of history. The demonstration used a small probe ship as the target. The ship was real, orbiting nearby, sending regular status reports. Dr. Lee Eun-seo activated her weapon. The probability field expanded, touched the probe ship, and the ship vanished. Not destroyed. It simply had never existed. The radio transmission stopped, but not because the transmitter was destroyed. They stopped because there had never been a transmitter to begin with. According to our instruments, Dr. Lee Yun-seo said quietly, that probe ship was never built. The materials that went into it are still in the factory warehouses. The workers who built it remember building something else that day. Reality has been edited to remove the ship from history. The military officers looked terrified. General, Bae Tae-young asked the question they were all thinking. What happens if you use this weapon on a planet with people on it? Dr. Lee Yun-seo did not answer immediately. When she did speak, her voice was barely a whisper. Those people would never have been born. Their parents would have done other things instead of having children. The universe would rearrange itself so that their non-existence made sense. Meanwhile, Captain Nam Jae-sung was testing humanity's new warships. The first prototype was called Retribution, and it was unlike any ship ever built. It was designed to carry weapons that normal ships could not handle. Beginning combat trials, Captain Nam reported over the radio. All Prometheus weapons are loaded and ready. The Retribution was built around its weapons rather than the other way around. Most of the ship was shielding and power systems needed to contain forces that could tear holes in space-time. The crew compartments were small and heavily protected. Captain Nam's target was a captured alien patrol ship. Human special forces had managed to disable it and bring it back for study. Now it would test whether human weapons could defeat alien technology. Firing conventional weapons first, Captain Nam announced. The Retribution launched missiles and energy beams at the alien ship. As expected, the alien shields deflected everything. The crystalline hull was not even scratched. Conventional weapons ineffective, Captain Nam reported. Switching to Prometheus weapons. Firing reality cascade. The weapon struck the alien ship's shields. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then the shields began to flicker. Inside the reality distortion field, the physics that made the shields work were changing. Force fields that depended on electromagnetic interactions stopped working when electromagnetism itself was altered. The alien shields collapsed. The ship hung defenseless in space. Alien shields down, Captain Nam reported, hardly believing it himself. Prometheus weapons are effective against alien technology. But Dr. Yoon Ji-hai was already working on something worse. She called it the consciousness bomb, and it was the most horrific weapon her teams had developed. It did not attack matter or energy. It attacked minds. The theory came from studying alien neural patterns, she explained to President Kang Soo-bin during a classified briefing. We have learned that consciousness is a quantum phenomenon. What if we could target that phenomenon directly? What would such a weapon do? The president asked. It would trap the target's consciousness in a loop of their worst memories. They would experience their greatest fears and most terrible moments over and over again, forever. Their body would be unharmed, but their mind would be destroyed. President. Kang Soo-bin stared at the weapon schematics. This is torture, not warfare. Yes, Dr. Yoon Ji-hai said simply. But it is what they did to the children on New Busan. They killed them slowly, for no purpose except cruelty. Perhaps knowing that the same could happen to them will make them reconsider their actions. The president approved the weapon, but she felt a piece of her soul die as she signed the authorization. Lieutenant Colonel Oh Yoo-jin was leading the most dangerous missions of all. Her special operations teams were infiltrating alien-controlled space to study the enemy. What they found changed humanity's understanding of what they were fighting. The Vorthak Empire spans half the galaxy, she reported from a hidden observation post. They have conquered thousands of species, but their military has not changed in over 1,000 years. General Bae Tae-young studied her intelligence reports. What does that tell us? It tells us they have never faced real resistance. They have never needed to adapt or innovate. They rely completely on their technological superiority. Oh Yoo-jin's teams had observed alien military exercises. The Vorthak fought with perfect precision, but no creativity. They followed ancient battle plans that had worked for millennia. They could not imagine facing an enemy that would break the rules of warfare itself. They think in terms of conquest and occupation, Oh Yoo-jin explained. They defeat a species, occupy their worlds, Use them as slave labor until they die out. They have never fought a species that would rather destroy reality than surrender. But the most important intelligence came from captured alien prisoners. Dr. Park So-young, who had escaped from New Busan before its destruction, was now humanity's leading expert on alien biology and psychology. They are apex predators, she explained to the military commanders. For millions of years, they have been the most dangerous species in their ecosystem. They cannot imagine being prey. The very concept is alien to them. She had studied recordings of alien communications and behavior patterns. They see other species as either resources to be used or threats to be eliminated. They cannot conceive of equals. That is their greatest weakness. Admiral Choi Hyun-woo was planning the counterattack that would use all of these new weapons and intelligence. He knew that humanity would only get one chance. If their attack failed, the aliens would adapt and become impossible to defeat. Cannot fight them ship to ship, he told his fleet commanders. We cannot match their numbers or their conventional technology. But we do not need to fight them conventionally. His plan was simple in concept, but terrifying in execution. Humanity would not attack alien ships or planets. They would attack the concepts that made alien ships and planets possible. Captain Song Min-ho had been given command of the Dreadnought Vengeance, humanity's most powerful warship. It was built to carry weapons that could fold space-time into impossible shapes. We are not just going to defeat them, he told his crew. We are going to make them afraid. For the first time in their history, the Vorthak are going to know what it feels like to be helpless. The ship's main weapon was called a dimensional mine. It created regions of space where geometry itself was wrong. Enemy ships that entered these regions would find themselves firing at their own hulls across impossible angles. Meanwhile, Major Lim Hai-wan was training the most elite soldiers humanity had ever produced. They were equipped with armor that existed in multiple quantum states simultaneously. Until they chose to collapse their wave functions, they were effectively immortal. The enemy cannot kill what does not fully exist, she explained to her. Admiral Choi Hyun-woo stood on the bridge of the flagship Retribution's Dawn, watching the final preparations for humanity's counterattack. Around him, the largest fleet in human history prepared to jump into alien space. 300 ships, loaded with weapons that should not exist, crewed by soldiers who had trained for a war unlike any ever fought. All ships report ready, Admiral, Captain Song Min-ho announced from his position at the tactical station. The Admiral looked at the star chart showing Vorthak territory. Red dots marked the alien colonies. Thousands of worlds where trillions of aliens lived in the certainty that they were the galaxy's apex predators. In 6 hours, that certainty would be shattered forever. Begin Operation Prometheus, Admiral, Choi Hyun-woo ordered. The fleet jumped to hyperspace, carrying humanity's answer to the New Busan massacre. Their first target was the Kethvar system, a major Vorthak military base with a population of 50 million aliens. Intelligence reports indicated it was one of their primary shipyards, producing the crystal vessels that had destroyed human colonies. Captain Song Min-ho commanded the Dreadnought Vengeance, the ship that would deploy humanity's most terrible weapon. As they dropped out of hyperspace at the system's edge, he studied the alien defenses through his sensors. Massive orbital platforms, his weapons officer reported. At least 200 ships in defensive positions. They know we are coming. The Vorthak had been expecting a human counterattack for months. Their intelligence networks had detected increased military activity in human space. They were prepared for a conventional fleet battle with primitive human technology. They were not prepared for what actually happened. Deploy the dimensional mines, Captain Song ordered. The Vengeance launched a dozen small devices that flew toward the alien defensive fleet. The devices looked harmless, simple metal spheres no larger than footballs. But inside each sphere was a generator that could fold space-time into mathematically impossible shapes. The mines activated when they reached the alien fleet. Reality twisted around them like water going down a drain. The neat formations of Vorthak, ships suddenly found themselves in regions of space where straight lines curved back on themselves and where cause followed effect backwards through time. What the hell? one of Captain Song's officers muttered as he watched the alien ships begin firing on themselves. The Vorthak fleet was trapped in Klein bottle geometries, spaces that had no inside or outside, where every direction led back to the starting point. Their weapons, designed to fire forward, instead struck their own hulls from impossible angles. Ships that tried to retreat found themselves advancing instead. In 15 minutes, the entire Vorthak defensive fleet had destroyed itself, without humanity firing a single conventional shot. Meanwhile, Major Lim Hae-won led her quantum soldiers in the assault on the alien orbital platforms. Her troops wore armor that existed in multiple quantum states simultaneously, making them nearly impossible to target. "Remember," she told her soldiers as their transport approached the largest platform, "you are not solid until you choose to be." Walk through their defenses like ghosts, then materialize behind their positions. The aliens opened fire as the human transport approached. Energy beams and projectile weapons filled space with deadly light, but the quantum soldiers simply passed through the weapons fire like it was not there. Major Lim materialized inside the alien command center, her weapon already firing. The Vorthak officers died before they understood what had happened. Their sensors had shown empty space where the human soldiers should have been. "Platform 1 secured," she reported over the radio. "No human casualties. All alien defenders eliminated." Similar reports came in from platforms across the system. The Vorthak had never faced enemies who could choose whether or not to exist in normal space. Their weapons were useless against targets that existed in quantum superposition. But the real horror was yet to come. Dr. Yoon-ji Hai watched from the command ship as they prepared to deploy the reality cascade weapons against the planet itself. The world below held 50 million Vorthak civilians, workers, children, families who had nothing to do with the destruction of New Busan. "Target locked," the weapons officer reported. "Ready to fire on your command." Dr. Yoon-ji Hai hesitated. Once they crossed this line, there would be no going back. Humanity would become the thing they had fought against, a species that committed genocide. Then she remembered the images from New Busan, the alien soldiers cutting down human children, the systematic extermination of an entire world, the callous report that classified it as a minor cleansing operation. "Fire," she ordered. The reality cascade weapon struck the planet from orbit. But instead of exploding like a normal weapon, it began to change the fundamental constants of physics in the area around the planet. The strong nuclear force that held atoms together gradually weakened. The effect spread across the planet's surface, like a slow-motion nuclear explosion. Buildings did not collapse. Their atoms simply forgot how to remain connected. People did not die in the conventional sense. They just stopped being people as their molecular structures dissolved. In 6 hours, the planet Kethvar became a cloud of loose particles drifting through space. 50 million aliens had not been killed. They had been unmade at the atomic level. Overlord Thexkar, the same alien commander who had destroyed New Busan, received the report at his command base in another system. At first, he could not understand what his intelligence officers were telling him. "The entire Kethvar system is gone?" he asked. "Not destroyed, Overlord, gone. Our long-range sensors show empty space where the system used to be. No planets, no debris, no energy signatures. It is as if the system never existed." Thexkar felt something he had never experienced before: fear. In 1,000 years of conquest, the Vorthak had never faced weapons that could erase matter from existence. "What happened to our ships?" he demanded. "They appear to have destroyed themselves, Overlord. Our surviving sensors show them firing on their own hulls. It makes no sense." But there was worse news coming. The human fleet had moved to their second target, the Mordeth system, home to one of the Vorthak Empire's most important research facilities. This time, they deployed the probability warheads. Captain Nam Jae-sung watched from his ship as the weapons struck their targets. Unlike the reality cascade, the probability warheads showed no immediate effect. The alien facilities continued, operating normally for several minutes. Then history began to change. The research station that had existed for 300 years suddenly had never been built. The scientists who worked there had chosen different careers. The research they had conducted had never been started. The alien empire's technological development was retroactively altered as centuries of scientific progress were edited out of history. Effects confirmed, Dr. Lee Yunseo reported from the science station. The target facilities have been removed from the timeline. The aliens' weapons technology has been reduced by approximately 200 years of development. But the most terrible demonstration was yet to come. The third target was a Vorthak colony world called Hexthara, known for its military academies where young aliens learn to be soldiers. Dr. Park So-young had suggested this target specifically because it trained the aliens who would grow up to become the next generation of planet killers. This time, they used the consciousness bombs. The weapons did not damage the planet or its cities. Instead, they attacked the minds of every alien on the surface. Every Vorthak soldier, officer, and cadet found themselves trapped in an endless loop of their worst memories and greatest fears. The effect was visible from orbit. The orderly alien cities became chaos as millions of beings collapsed, their minds caught in infinite loops of terror. They were not dead, but they were no longer sane. They would spend the rest of their lives experiencing their own nightmares over and over again. "It is working," Dr. Park So-young reported, but her voice was hollow. "The aliens are completely incapacitated. The colony is neutralized." General Bae Tae-young watched the reports from all three attacks with mixed emotions. Humanity had won 3 decisive victories without losing a single ship or soldier, but they had also demonstrated weapons so terrible that they made the Vorthak seem merciful by comparison. The news of the attack spread through the Vorthak Empire faster than their ships could travel. For the first time in their history, the aliens faced an enemy that fought without rules, without mercy, and without limits. Empress Vexithara, the supreme ruler of the Vorthak Empire, called an emergency council meeting. She had ruled for 800 years, conquering dozens of species. But she had never received reports like these. "They have weapons that can erase matter from existence," her science advisor reported. "They have weapons that can change history itself. And they have weapons that can trap minds in endless nightmares." "How is this possible?" the Empress demanded. "Unknown, Your Majesty. These weapons violate fundamental laws of physics. They should not be able to exist." Empress Vexithara studied the reports from her surviving commanders. 3 of her most important worlds had been neutralized in ways she could not understand. The humans had fought with weapons that made reality itself into a battlefield. "What do they want?" she asked her intelligence chief. President Kang Subin stood before the Galactic Council for the first time in human history. The great chamber on the neutral world of Concordia held representatives from 300 different species. All of them were staring at her with expressions of fear, horror, and fascination. 6 months had passed since humanity's counterattack against the Vorthak Empire. 6 months since the human fleet had demonstrated weapons that could erase entire civilizations from existence. The galaxy was still trying to understand what had happened. Where the Vorthak Empire once stood, there was now only empty space. Not destroyed space, not conquered territory, just emptiness, as if nothing had ever been there at all. 1,000 worlds that had housed trillions of aliens simply no longer existed in any timeline. "Honorable delegates," President Kang Subin began, her voice echoing in the vast chamber. "I come before you today to explain humanity's actions and to discuss what comes next." Chancellor Mordine of the Galactic Council rose from his ceremonial chair. He was an ancient being from a species that had helped found galactic civilization 10,000 years ago. He had seen the rise and fall of many empires, but nothing like this. "President Kang Subin," he said formally, "the Council recognizes the human delegation. We are eager to understand what your species has done." The president looked around the chamber. She saw fear in every face, every tentacle, every optical sensor. These beings had heard the reports. They knew that humanity possessed weapons that could unmake reality itself. "The Vorthak Empire destroyed one of our colonies," she began. "They killed 2.5 million innocent people without provocation, without negotiation, without mercy. They made it clear that they intended to exterminate our entire species." Murmurs filled the chamber. Many of the delegates had heard rumors about the Vorthak, but the Empire had been so powerful that no one dared speak against them openly. We asked ourselves a simple question. President Kang Soo-bin continued. What do you do when faced with an enemy that wants to erase you from existence? The answer is simple. You become something they cannot erase. You became something far worse than them, accused Ambassador Zilthek of the hegemony, a multi-species alliance that controlled a significant portion of galactic space. The Vorthak killed your people. You erased their entire species from history itself. President Kang Soo-bin nodded. Yes, we did. And we would do it again to any species that threatens human existence. That is not a threat. It is a statement, a fact. The chamber erupted in frightened chatter. Several delegates began transmitting urgent messages to their home governments. They had hoped the humans might be reasoned with, might be convinced to abandon their terrible weapons. Instead, they were learning that humanity had become something beyond negotiation. Ambassador Park Dong-wook, humanity's representative to the Galactic Council, stepped forward. He was a career diplomat who had spent decades working to build peaceful relationships with alien species. The events of the past year had changed him, just as they had changed all of humanity. The Council needs to understand something, he said. Humanity did not choose to become what we are now. We were peaceful explorers and farmers until the Vorthak forced us to evolve. But evolution is irreversible. Chancellor Mordine studied the human delegates carefully. What exactly have you become? We have become a species that will not allow itself to be exterminated, President Kang Soo-bin replied. We have weapons that can rewrite the laws of physics. We have soldiers who can choose whether or not to exist in normal space. We have the power to erase civilizations not just from the present, but from all possible timelines. She paused, letting that sink in. And we have the will to use these weapons if threatened. On Earth, Admiral Choi Hyun-woo was dealing with the practical consequences of humanity's transformation. The Terran Defense Force was now the most powerful military organization in the galaxy, but power came with responsibilities he had never wanted. Sir, Captain Song Min-ho reported from his flagship, we're getting surrender offers from 17 different species. They're all offering tribute and asking for protection. Admiral Choi Hyun-woo felt tired in a way that sleep could not cure. He had become the most feared military commander in galactic history without wanting the title. What kind of protection? They're afraid other species will attack them for being weak. They think aligning with us will keep them safe. It was not an unreasonable fear. The galaxy was full of aggressive species that had been held in check only by the Vorthak Empire's greater power. With the Empire gone, many worlds were vulnerable to conquest by their neighbors. Set up defensive agreements with any species that asks, Admiral Choi Hyun-woo decided, but make it clear. We are not conquerors. We defend. We do not rule. The distinction was important to him, even if the rest of the galaxy could not see the difference. Dr. Yoon Ji-hye was working on the most important project of her career, trying to contain the weapons she had created. Some of the Prometheus devices had become part of the universe's fundamental structure and could not be safely removed. The reality cascade generators are stable, her assistant, Dr. Kim Sang-wook, reported. But the quantum effects are spreading. We're detecting temporal anomalies throughout human space. Dr. Yoon Ji-hye studied the sensor readings. The weapons that had saved humanity were also changing the basic nature of space-time around human worlds. Ships traveling near Earth sometimes experienced time dilation effects that had nothing to do with relativity. It's as if the universe is trying to quarantine us, she mused. Reality itself is afraid of what we might do next. The thought would have been funny if it were not so terrifying. Meanwhile, General Bae Tae-young was dealing with a different problem. His special operations teams had found something in the ruins of Vorthak space. A survivor, the alien called itself Gixkol, and it was the last living member of its species. It had been off-world when humanity erased the Vorthak from history, and now it existed as a temporal anomaly, a being whose species had never existed. Please, Gixkol begged. Through the translation device, I was not involved in the attack on your colony. I was a researcher, a scientist. I studied star formations, not military targets. Lieutenant Colonel Ou Jin, who was handling the interrogation, felt an unexpected pang of sympathy. This alien was no different from the human scientists on New Busan who had been killed for no reason except existing. "What do you want from us?" she asked. "I want to live," Gixkol replied simply. "I am the last of my kind. When I die, the Vorthak will be truly extinct. I do not ask for much. Just a small place where I can exist without being a threat to anyone." The request reached President Kang Subin's desk within hours. The decision was not easy. Granting asylum to the last Vorthak would be seen as mercy by some and weakness by others, but it would also be human. Grant the asylum, she decided, but make it clear, this is mercy, not weakness. We choose to spare this one life because we can choose mercy. That makes us different from them. The decision sent ripples through both human space and the galactic community. Some humans were angry that any Vorthak was being allowed to live. Some aliens saw it as proof that humans could still be reasoned with. Both groups were wrong. As the one-year anniversary of New Busan approached, humanity began construction of something unprecedented, a memorial that existed in multiple timelines simultaneously. The monument would remember not just the people who had died, but all the possible futures that had died with them. Dr. Park So-young, the xenobiologist who had escaped New Busan's destruction, was chosen to design the memorial. She had studied the aliens that killed her world, and now she had helped create weapons that erased those aliens from existence. "What should we remember?" she asked the committee planning the memorial. "Everything," President Kang Subin replied. "We remember who we were before the attack. We remember who we became after it. And we remember the choice we made when we decided to survive no matter the cost." The memorial took the form of a quantum structure that existed in the same space as New Busan's ruins. Visitors could see both the destroyed colony and the thriving world it might have become. They could experience the peaceful past and the violent present simultaneously. It was a reminder of what humanity had lost and what they had chosen to become. As the memorial was dedicated, humanity broadcast a message to every species in the galaxy. The message was simple and delivered in every known language. Remember New Busan. Remember what happens when you mistake human mercy for human weakness. We are no longer the peaceful farmers and explorers who spread across the galaxy seeking friendship. We are something else now. Something you created when you taught us that the universe is not safe for the gentle. We do not seek to conquer or rule. We seek only to exist and to protect those who cannot protect themselves. But if you threaten us, if you attempt to exterminate us as the Vorthak did, you will discover that we have become very good at making threats disappear, not just killed, not just defeated, erased from all possible timelines, as if you had never existed at all. This is not a threat. This is a promise. This is what we have become, and what we will remain, until the universe is safe for children to grow up on peaceful worlds. Remember New Busan. Remember the price of making humans afraid.